everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, 5 Elements of a Winning MBA Application. My name is Nelly, and I'll be the moderator on behalf of the Prep Advisor team. And I'm here with a very special guest. I want to present to you Dr. Loubna Bouamane, a founder of the Admission Concierge and an expert in the MBA admissions field with over 15 years of experience. But before giving the word to Loubna, I want to tell everyone who is listening, you can ask questions anytime during the webinar using the Q&A box. All questions are welcome, so don't hesitate. I'm giving the floor to you, Loubna.
All right, thank you, Nelly, for this nice introduction. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. We are based in Miami, Florida. Just to give you a little bit of background about us, and we are a boutique-sized MBA admission advising company, and we work with people applying to MBAs in North America, but also Europe and Asia. So today's topic, what I wanted to share with you is the 5 elements of a winning MBA application. So there's a lot of information out there about what makes a great application and what you need to do and how you need to write an essay. But really my goal today is to tell you which 5 elements really do make or break your MBA application. So if you take 99% of business schools, if you look at the documents that they ask you, you'll see that they're pretty similar. They want a resume, they want your GMAT or your GRE, they want your transcripts for your undergrad, they want an essay or video essay, and letters of recommendation. So those are the basic documents for most MBA applications. 5 of them, to me at least, are a critical part of your MBA application. And the most important, and that's what I call the first element, is your resume. So why is your resume so important? Well, the answer is simple. When I was director of admissions and I was reviewing MBA applications, the first thing that I would look at is the resume. Not only I would just pick the resume and skim through it, but I would spend very little time because I had stacks and stacks of applications to go through. So I had to be really quick in my decision-making process. So on average, recruiters, whether for MBA admissions or even on a job, they spend about 6 seconds on your resume. So you cannot afford to miss the mark. Here are the informations they want to see. And I'm talking from an MBA admission director perspective. They want to see where you went to school, first and foremost, your GPA, your major, your GMAT or GRE score. They want to see, obviously, the job that you've held, how long you stayed, the position that you've held within the company, as well as the impact. And they want to see, and that's the major difference, by the way, between a professional MBA, a professional resume, and an MBA resume. They want to know what you do outside of work. What are you passionate about? What are your values? And this is featured in your extracurricular activity section. So why is an MBA resume so important? Because it's your opportunity to highlight your leadership skills. Don't get me wrong, nobody is expecting you when you apply to an MBA to have years and years of management and have 100 people under you. That's not what leadership is about. But at the very least, they want to see that you have what it takes to be a successful leader. And if you cannot demonstrate that in your work experience, then you have the opportunity to do so with your extracurricular activities. More on this a little bit later. They want to see your analytical skills. So let's say, you don't have a STEM degree. So how do you show that you have the quantitative skill and analytical skills to thrive in an academically demanding program? So you have first and foremost your GMAT or your GRE can help them, but also they want to look at your resume in terms of what do you do on a daily basis that shows that you have strong quantitative skills. So that's also the goal of your resume. And most importantly, they want to see the impact that you've had. It doesn't matter what position you've held, it doesn't matter what the company, if you don't have any impact, that doesn't matter. It's not going to count. So every single bullet point that you put in your resume has to show some kind of impact. And when I say impact, it can be dollar amounts. Yes. How did you impact the bottom line of your company? But it's more than that. It can be, how did you improve processes? How did you reduce human error in the process? How did you increase staff retention? You know, there's many ways to show impact. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dollar amount. And they want to see that you have the ability to give back. And that's why your extracurricular activity section is so important. When a director of admissions admits a candidate, they want to make sure that they're going to be the type of person that's going to be involved in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom, and possibly even after they complete the MBA by being a very involved alum to the program. So they want to see in your resume that you have this type of inclination, that you like to give back, that you like community outreach, that you have a strong sense of citizenship, because those are the personalities that they like to have in a classroom. An MBA program is not the type of program where you're going to sit in the back of the class and take a note. It's very interactive. You're going to be working in group projects, participate in class discussions. So they want to see that you have this type of personality that kind of likes to get involved, you know, work well with others, thrive in a group setting, in a collaborative environment, because that's what the MBA is about. So you want to make sure that you show that in your resume. So I mentioned earlier that there's a huge difference between the resume that you use to apply for jobs and the MBA resume. So let's look at these templates. On the right side of your screen, you have what we call a professional MBA. So if you look at it, you can see that it's very much focused on skills, bullet points with skills, very technical, very descriptive. It's all about the daily task that they worked on and what they know how to do. Great resume for job hunting. On the left side of your screen, you have what an MBA resume should look like. On the top, you have a professional profile. That part, by the way, you can do without, depending on how many years of work experience you have. A lot of people, of my clients that apply for executive MBAs, usually they have 10 to 15 years. So they have a professional profile because they have accomplished so much. And sometimes the resume cannot capture everything. But if you are a young professional and you have anywhere between 3 to 5 years, you can do without the professional profile and instead focus on the rest. Remember, your resume should be one page. The only exception to that is if you have more than 10 years of work experience. So the rule of thumb is 1-page resume for less than 10 years and maybe 2-page resume for more than 10 years of work experience. So education is on top most of the time, unless, of course, the school is stating otherwise. Education on top. Make sure that you show any course that you took, course that you took online in addition to your undergraduate, like Math MBA, for example, is one of them. Make sure that you feature your GMAT or GRE. It's not on this one specifically, but it's good to add your GMAT to your education section, and then the professional experience. Note that every single bullet point in the professional section starts with a verb, a strong action verb. So just make sure that whenever you start a bullet point, you have two things. You have an action verb at the beginning, and it's quantified. There is a number attached to it, dollar amount, percentage, whatever it is, but it has to have a number, because without number, there's no impact. And then the final section is your extracurricular activities. This is, again, a great opportunity for you if you are a young professional and don't necessarily have major management experience. This is a great opportunity for you, a great section for you to show leadership. So that's basically the difference between two resumes. So just to reiterate, what should go in your resume for an MBA application? Your contact information, obviously. Keep it simple. Email address, phone number, that's it. I don't need your street address. Your professional profile or summary, especially if you're an executive MBA applicant. If you are a traditional MBA, you can do without to save space for the rest. Your work experience, number 3, obviously. Remember to start with a strong, active action verb and quantify your education and your extracurricular activities. With these 5 components, you cannot go wrong. with your MBA, your MBA resume. So again, quantify and give concrete examples. Tell me about the projects you worked on. Tell me about how it impacted the company or the employees of the company or your teammates. Focus on leadership and analytical skills. That's what MBA directors are looking for, people that have strong sense of leadership, strong quantitative skills, because you're probably going to be in a very academically demanding environment. So they want to make sure that you're not going to struggle during your first class of accounting or finance. And carefully craft your extracurricular activity sections. This is not something that you just write in passing. Just really take the time to think about everything that you've done outside of work, preferably after college, but even during college is fine. That shows that you are the type of person that likes to take action, that likes to give back, and likes to get involved in the community. So here are the top resume killers, in my opinion, at least for someone who has read thousands of resumes. Inconsistencies, and I cannot stress this enough. When I say they, most director of admissions and admission staff are going to check your LinkedIn. And this is, from my experience, at least where we catch the most inconsistencies and red flags. So before you even click submit on your application, go to your LinkedIn and make sure that everything matches to a T. Job titles, dates, scope of responsibilities, everything should match. Number two, hard to read. Jargon. Avoid any jargon. If you have a very technical training, try to explain what you do in a very plain language. Most of people that work in admissions, I mean, obviously with time, we learn about different jobs, about different specialties, and we kind of get some of the jargon, but you never know who's going to read your resume. So make sure that you get rid of any type of jargon and no overwhelming design. Like I said, they spend 6 seconds skimming through your resume. They just want the information. They don't care about the colors. They don't care about the keep it simple. Repetitive. Try to, when you talk about what you accomplished in each position that you've held, try to highlight different type of skills. So one bullet point is probably going to be about your analytical skills. One bullet point is going to be about outreach. One bullet point is about a project that required very strong analytical skills. So try to mix and match the skills within your resume. I don't want a resume where everything is about your analytical skills. Great, but what about leadership? So remember, leadership, analytical skills are the 2 keys of a successful applicant. No impact, common mistake. I read a resume and it's just basically a job description that looks like they copy pasted from the job posting. I don't want that. I care about your job description, yes, but what matters to me is really what did you accomplish when you were there? And obviously, misspelling and grammatical errors. One spelling mistake is not going to cost you a spot in the program, but multiple mistakes is just going to make you look sloppy. So just, give it a final read. There's no excuse. There's great tools out there. You can use Grammarly if you are based in the US, or at least if you write in English. Grammarly is a great tool to help you, write in general. So just make sure that you read your resume multiple times, have someone read it for you to make sure that there's no errors. Which takes me, and that's it for the resume, which takes me to the second element of your application that is critical and really can make or break your application. And that's the essay or the personal narrative. So why is it important? You're applying to a top program, a highly competitive program. So just know that you're going to be competing against people that have 4.0 GPA, 750 GMAT. So these metrics are important, yes, but it's not what gets you a spot in the program. What really gets you a spot in the program, especially competitive ones, is your personal brand, your personal narrative. That's what makes you stand out from the competition. So this is where you need to spend most of the time in your application, like really thinking about what type of brand you want to build around your application. And that's what we do as consultants. We'll help you with that. Tell us your story, your formative experiences, and everything that made you who you are. And we take these stories and we help you and we use them as building block for your personal narrative. So why does your story matter? Because it's your opportunity to get personal. By the time the admission director gets to your essay, they probably know everything about your academic and professional background. So they'll know everything. So now they want to know you on the personal level. So you need to give them what they want. It highlights your values and your passions. You know, who are you? What are the things that keeps you up at night? What are your values? What are your passions? Share about your formative experiences. You know, this is your opportunity to talk about things that happened to you either at work, outside of work, that made you who you are, and really shed a different light on your personality and who you are as a person. So basically, this is your opportunity to build your brand. Are you a fearless leader? Are you an empath that is looking to have a deep impact on people's lives? You know, I need to know who you are as a person, and that's what you need to give me in your essay. There are 4 types of essays in general. If you look at the top 25 programs, you typically have this type of essays. The most common, not the most common, but 2 that are very, very known is the open question essay, like the one from HBS and Stanford. Tell us about something that, you know, we didn't see in your application. So those very open-ended questions are a little tricky, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The second type of essay is the career goal essay. You have those type of essays with Kellogg and INSEAD, for example. Then you have your contribution essay, which is very tricky as well. Kellogg has one, among other schools, of course. And you have the video essay, like the MIT Sloan video essay. So let's look into each of these type of essays and what is expected of you in here. The open question. So the open question, and Harvard says it very clearly, tell us about something that we cannot see in your application. So what it means is that you have to share something new. This is your opportunity to talk about your formative experiences and the people who made you who you are. And how did they change you? And how do you see these qualities that you developed as a result of people you encountered and experience that you've had? How will this serve you as a future business leader? Are you an empath? Do you have a strong work ethic? Do you have a strong sense of citizenship? So tell us about your experiences and the people that you came across and how they made you who you are. And I cannot highlight this enough. It's highlighted in yellow, but this is not the place to brag about your academic and professional accomplishments. This is something that they can see from your application. You don't have to reiterate that in your essay. The stories of your success and failures should inform the reader in terms of who you are as a person. So it's perfectly okay to talk about a success story that changed you as a person, but it's okay too. And I would argue it's even better to talk about a failure who changed you and made you who you are now. So that's for the open-ended question. The career goal essay, very straightforward. So this is an essay where you're going to focus on both your short-term and long-term career goals and how an MBA is going to help you achieve those. So when I say short-term career goals, you have to be extremely specific. You have to drill it down to a specific position within a couple of companies that you see yourself in after you complete your MBA. Once you have done that, you have established the premises. Okay, this is what I want to do on the short term. This is what I want to do on the long term. Then you identify your skill gaps. Why are you not able to achieve your short-term career goals now? Well, the reason I'm not able to do so is because I feel like I'm lacking on certain set of skills like communication, negotiation skills, you name it. So you're going to identify the skills that you feel you are missing to achieve your goals, and then link those to what the school has to offer. And by the way, the majority of good applicants that get denied from MBA programs is not so much about, the GPA or the GMAT. Yes, it counts, but it's not all. But the majority of the time people get rejected because their career goals don't make sense or simply do not align with what the school has to offer. If you apply to a school that is known to have, hyper focused on finance and banking, and you want to have a career, I don't know, in the nonprofit. So it's going to be tough to make the argument that this school is the right fit. So this essay is not just about your career goals. It's bigger than that. It's about showing why this school is the right fit and why this school specifically is going to take you where you want to be. Third type of essay is the contribution essay. So the contribution essay is basically, the question is, how are you going to contribute to the, let's say, Kellogg community? So where do you start with that? Well, first you're going to create 3 buckets. Professional bucket. What is the unique skill set you developed over the course of your career that's going to be useful for you during the classroom? This is easier, for example, if you come from a non-business background, human sciences, engineering, law, whatever, you name it. You think about the skills that you developed over the course of your career and how you're going to bring these skills to the classroom and how you're going to enhance your classmates' experience. Then you have the academic bucket. Think about your bachelor degree. What did you learn? How did it change you? Talk about the intellectual curiosity that it helped you develop and how it's going to help you participate in the classroom. And then you have the personal bucket. Think about your qualities as a human. What do you have going for you? You're very creative. You're a great team player. You have a great sense of empathy. So use these qualities that you have to show how you're going to contribute to the classroom. Let's say, for example, you're someone who's a natural leader. You can use that quality that you have and say, once I join the Kellogg community, I would love to start my own students club focused on a personal interest of mine, and so on and so forth. So the way to approach this essay, think in terms of qualities that you have and that you have developed professionally and academically, and see how you can use these qualities in the school you're applying to. Last but not least, the video essay. So MIT Sloan is one of the first schools that used the video essay, and more schools are reverting to this format. So it may seem easy on paper. Typically, this is a 60-second video, one take, you introduce yourself. Think about this video, like when you're thinking about a prompt and what to say, what would you say if it's the first day in class and you want to introduce yourself to your classmates? So, name, where you're from, what you do, and then maybe add an interesting fact about you. So the goal of the video essay, it's not so much about what you say, because they know who you are, where you're from, what you've done. They have that in your application, but they want to see how you communicate. They want to kind of see what your personality is like. So definitely let your personality shine. This is your opportunity to be very creative. Show, don't tell. So for example, think about the settings, think about your background. What does it mean? Talk about it. So that's why I say show, don't tell. I'm going to give you a specific example of a client of mine a couple of years ago. He's an architect. And he was applying to MIT Sloan, obviously. And he was thinking about a way to show who he is as a person without having to use words. So he came up with the idea of doing a video on a construction site wearing a yellow vest and a hard hat. So, and I thought it was a great idea. I mean, he was admitted eventually, so I guess it was a good idea. But it really kind of immediately clicked with whoever sees this, and they immediately understand, okay, this is who he is as a person. So that's why showing is more important than telling. So whatever is important for you, whether it's, a park where you used to play when you were a kid, whether it's your own home or a specific spot in your home that means something to you, just, make sure that your background tells a story, not just you. So that's for the video essay in the nutshell, which leads me to the third element of a successful MBA application: letters of recommendation. So how do you approach your recommender? First and foremost, ask the right person. Just off the bat, schools don't care about the titles. CEO of a company, they don't care. A minister, they don't care. They don't care about title. What they care about is that you have a letter from someone who knows you, worked with you day in and day out, and can genuinely talk about your quality as an employee. Once you have identified that person, and by the way, I get the questions a lot about, I'm not sure I can ask a letter of recommendation from my current supervisor. They don't know that I'm planning to apply for an MBA, so it's kind of tough for me to go to them for a letter. It happens, and it happens a lot, and that is okay. Of course, the preference for MBA committee is to have a letter from the current supervisor, but if it's not possible, you have to explain why and ask someone else. So in that case, supervisor from your previous position is perfectly acceptable. If you cannot do that either, or if it's too old, anything older than 5 years, honestly, I wouldn't do, even 3 years. So in that case, think outside the box. Business partners, clients, there's many people in there, and that's what we do as consultants, is that we ask you questions about your surrounding and other options when it comes to letters of recommendations. So once you have identified the right person, then you're going to provide them with all the information that they need: the deadline, your resume, and a little blurb about your career goals, so that they have all the information necessary to craft a letter. Give them ample time. When it comes to MBA applications, this is the only thing where you as an applicant have zero control over. So make sure you get the letters of rec immediately after you develop your essay. Why after you develop your essay? Because your letters of recommendation should echo and reinforce what you've put in your essay. It should not be redundant, and it should not contradict. That's even worse. So first, work on your essay, and then approach your recommenders with talking points. And that's the last point in here: share talking points. You want to tell them, look, I want my application to really focus on my leadership skills. So have your recommender focus on that. Tell them to come up with specific examples of you demonstrating this skill. So the key to a strong letter is specificity. I want to know how this person knows you, for how long, and in what capacity. It has to be recent. Try to stay within the past 3 years if possible. It has to be honest. Yes, it's great to talk about, your outstanding performance, but, it's even more interesting to talk about where there is room for growth and what you can, work on to become even better. And the details. Details are important. Every time they talk about a specific skill that you have, a quality that you have, they have to write a specific example of you demonstrating this quality at work. Very important. Fourth element. This is going to be really quick. It's self-explanatory: standardized tests. So most schools accept GMAT or GRE, executive assessment, if you're applying to an executive MBA. And really, they do not have a preference. When they tell you they accept GMAT, GRE, executive assessment, they really do not have a preference. Now, the question that I get a lot is, what's really the difference between GMAT and GRE? Obviously, the GMAT is specifically for MBAs and business school. The GRE open doors to all graduate schools. So that's the main difference. Now, in terms of the main difference between the GMAT and the GRE, I would say, based on my experience, that my clients that have stronger quantitative skills tend to do better at the GMAT, and those who have stronger verbal skills tend to do better at the GRE. That's really the main difference. So how do you approach this testing thing? Start prepping as soon as possible. And when I say starting as soon as possible, I mean as soon as you think that an MBA might be in the cards for you, try to think about your testing strategy. Practice for a couple of weeks. Many free tools online can help you prep before you invest in any type of tutoring. I would say prepare for like 3-4 weeks and then take a practice test. I see people, and I've seen it a lot, studying for 6 months on end and then just go take the test at the last minute. They have no idea if their prep was effective, if their studying was effective, or if they understood anything. So it's a huge gamble. So the best way to approach this is to take a practice test, get a baseline score, and then establish a strategy based on that score. If your score is 550 or 700, it's not going to be the same strategy. Maybe you need a tutor. Maybe you just need to work on time management. But this you don't know unless you take a practice test. And by the way, don't put too much weight on those mock tests. From my experience, it's never a good representation of your score when you actually take the test. So take those with a grain of salt. And if English is not your native language, read a lot to enrich your vocabulary before the test. So that's for the GRE and the GMAT. Last and not least, networking. So networking may sound weird because technically it's not part of the application, but it's really an important part of the application process. Schools are like any other business. They track everything in the back end. They use a CRM like Salesforce, and they track every single interaction with their candidates. So if you show up to an MBA interview and they look at the CRM and they see no sign of you interacting with the school whatsoever, they're really going to question your motives. Like, you never took the time to attend events, you never took a time to talk to our faculty or to our students or to attend an event. So how do you know that we are the right school for you? So as soon as you have selected a couple of schools that you want to apply to, register your interest. Some schools even have a formal register your interest process. So you go online, you upload your resume, you put your name and your information just to say, hey, I'm looking at your school and I'm interested. Some schools don't have that process, but when you can, register your interest. Second step, create an application account. Even if you don't end up submitting your application, I think it's a good thing to be to have an account, because you will immediately be part of the mailing list and you keep receiving very important information about the application process, changes in deadlines, changes in requirements, you name it. Then attend a couple of coffee chats. You don't have to go to all of them, but at least one, to show that you truly took the time to talk to the admission office, get to know a little bit more about the school, etc. So attend one of those events. If it's possible at all, visit campus. Stop by the admission office, get an appointment first, just to make sure that they have time to take care of you, and ask if you can sit in a class. It's perfectly acceptable. It's not possible all the time, obviously, but if you are, not too far from your program, ask if you can attend a class. Use LinkedIn to connect with current students and alumni. A lot of my clients, they reach out to alumni from the school and, ask if they can have a quick chat. And people are usually nice and they like to help and they like to share about the experience in attending their program. So it's very useful. Not to mention that in some applications, they will specifically ask you the question, have you interacted with any alumni, any students of ours? So make sure, you keep the name. Like when it comes time for you to fill out your application, you mention, yes, by the way, I had this conversation with this former student, and, to really just kind of reinforce that you were very intentional in the process and you did your due diligence and you did your research and you talked to people. This can really make a difference in the application. So that's it. In a nutshell, the 5 elements of a successful MBA application. I'm not going to introduce myself again. Nelly did a great job doing that right before the application. Some of the schools that here are featured that we worked with and where we had some of our candidates admitted. And in terms of the service that we offer, we help you it's a full inclusive service. We start with the strategic planning, school selection. We help you build your personal narrative. We help you craft your essay. We help you with your letters of recommendation, selecting the right recommender, sharing talking points with them to make sure that we keep control over the narrative. We help you edit your resume. We prepare you for the interview, and we help you with the scholarship negotiation strategy. So we offer a full coaching service from A to Z, from the strategy all the way until you take your seat in the program. So I'm going to leave this here for you. This is my contact information. If you want a copy of this presentation, I'm more than happy to email it to you. So shoot me an email, and that's it for me. So I guess now, Nelly, it's time for questions.
Thank you very much, Loubna, for this great presentation and super useful tips you shared with us. Indeed, we have a few questions, so I'm going to jump right in. Okay, starting from the beginning of your presentation, there is this question, how important is the resume compared to the other parts of the application?
So it was at the very beginning of my presentation, and I made this choice because to me, it's the most important part because that's the first document that they're going to look at. If I see a resume and I don't like the information that I see in the resume, I'm probably not going to move on to the rest of the application. So I would say it's a critical part of your application.
This is a great note. Yeah. Okay, you were talking a little bit how MBA recruiters will check your LinkedIn. There is this question, will they check other social media? Basically, how careful should we be if we are applicants with our social media and our presence online?
So, and it's an interesting question. Obviously, it varies from one director of admission to others. Some have time, but at the very least, I know they're going to check your LinkedIn. Are they going to check your other social media? Possibly. I doubt that they will dive any deeper, but just as a general rule, make your stuff private. Make your Instagram private, make your Facebook private to avoid any issues.
Yeah, I think this is a great advice, even if you're not applying for an MBA.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a little bit more complicated question here. My professional background is in technology, but my volunteering experience is mainly related to NGO work. How do I combine this in one narrative?
That's actually very interesting. So my follow-up question for you is, are you interested in a career in an NGO post-MBA? If the answer to that is yes, if you are a career switcher, then use your extracurricular activities to talk about the passion that you have for the nonprofit field and how you're looking to kind of pivot your career into that field after the MBA. If you're not a career switcher and you want to stay in tech, then just you talk about it as, okay, my entire professional life is about tech, but I also have a strong passion for community outreach, and that's why I'm also involved in an NGO. I think it's not, I think, you can have both. You can have a passion that is completely remote from what you do for a living, and it's perfectly acceptable. It's all about how you put together the narrative.
This is a great advice. Okay, we have one more question. Before reading it, I want to remind everyone that you can still ask questions. The chat is open, the Q&A box is open, so don't hesitate. Okay, and then the last question is, can you give advice how to talk about failures without sounding negative?
That's a great question. So every time you talk about a negative experience or failure, it has to be combined with the lesson learned from it and how it made you a better person. Everybody fails. Everybody experiences failures in their career and their personal life. But you have to look in terms of what did you learn from it and how it made you a better person. And they're really, really going to appreciate you being open and willing to share this type of experiences, because a lot of people are self-conscious and they don't want to share about their failures. But I think it could be a very positive thing, because it shows that you have a sense of self-awareness and that you have the ability to learn from your mistakes, as opposed to completely crumble and give up at the first challenge that you encounter. So no, absolutely, use your failures.
Thank you very much. Okay, we don't have any more questions. So I think this answer was a great, closure to this presentation.
Thank you.
I will give the floor to you for any final words, and for everyone who is still listening, we're going to send you the recording of this webinar together with Loubna's contacts, and you can, of course, contact her with more questions if you have any.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So just in closing, I'd like to say that timing is also very important. Even though you may open the online application on the school that you want to apply to, and you look at the question and you think, well, that sounds easy enough, but it actually requires a lot of introspections and a lot of research and a lot of talking to people to put together a successful application. For your essay, even if it's 500 words, these 500 words, you have to do so much research and so much writing before you're able to kind of, build your personal narrative. Just to give you an example with my clients, for example, the personal narrative building part of our process takes anywhere from 2 to 3 months. And we have to rewrite an essay maybe 5, 6, 7 times before we get it to a final version. So don't underestimate the amount of time that it takes to put together a good MBA application. If you want to do things right, I would start it at least 10 to 8 months before the deadline.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. To everyone, we wish you best of luck in your academic journey. Bye-bye, everyone.